Hello and welcome to the Power of Charms interview series. I am thrilled today to have Alicia Ontiveros with me. Hi, Alicia. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Oh, really, really great. We met through a mutual friend, Gloria Felt, and she just did a book signing for her new book, Intentioning, and that's how we met. And I was so impressed with you and your energy and your background. And
Oh,
I've
thank
never
you.
actually interviewed a film producer before, so I can't wait to get into that. I also wanted to touch base real quickly because I've interviewed Gloria before several times. You went through her Take the Lead mentoring program for 50 women who can change the world through media. Can you give us a little tidbit on how that was and how you got connected
Yeah,
with that?
sure. So the 50 Women Can Change the World. I know she does this training for different sectors, and I think she started in maybe it was nonprofit.
Mhm.
And I know that the one for media and entertainment was one of the first ones that she launched. But in any event, it was a program that I heard about through a friend, and she was applying. So she encouraged me to apply. You had to fill out some information about why you were a good candidate and all that. So it was kind of like a juried thing where they were selecting participants. People applied from around the country. I actually think we had somebody who was based in Mexico join too, and maybe a few people in Canada, at least one. So it
Mm.
was really kind of more of a North America thing. And because of it was media and entertainment focused, a lot of people came from LA. At the time, I was based in Chicago. So I was one of the only people coming in from Chicago. My friend and I both were selected for the program, and it was really wonderful. It was, I think, about 4 months, and it was back in 2018. So we formed like a 50 women cohort of individuals that ranged from media executives to content creators, producers, writers, directors, and so people from all different angles of the industry, and also on the more traditional media side, like journalism. We had some a reporter from the LA area there. And so it was really great to get us all together. Some people are currently with more on the corporate side, some people are more independent. So you had a lot of different viewpoints coming together to learn about just how to become more influential in our industry. And we collaborated and created synergies to help just boost each other's careers and learn about how we can harness our power and to achieve our goals.
Well, it sounds like it was a really powerful thing to go through, and I'm sure you made some great connections. Was there a huge takeaway or aha moment that happened after that launched you into your next phase in your career?
Yeah, for me, it came at a really great time because I was transitioning my career, and I think we'll get probably more into my background a little later. So I'll just mention briefly that I was trying to at the beginning stages of transitioning my career from being more corporate focused to into film and television. And so it was a huge transition that I was thinking about and starting to make some baby steps. And so it was definitely, I was out of my comfort zone for the first time in a long time. I just didn't, I didn't know how the hell I was going to pull it off. And I didn't know anybody in LA, but I had, this long-term plan to move there. So it was really great to expand my network into more of a film and TV focused side of the industry. And there were so many aha moments. I just think it was really confidence building, a lot of it. And it really pushed everybody to kind of elevate whatever aspirations they had. It really developed your self-worth a lot. And that was really powerful and has ripple effects. I mean, everyone was at different stages. So some
Yeah.
people clearly knew where they wanted to go. And, toward the end, I think they felt like they were more support people for maybe people like me who were kind of doing a huge diversion in their career and didn't know what to do. So they were, more mentors. So there's been great mentorship to come out of it. A lot of great things.
Oh, well, it's
It
so
was really great. I'll say, like, a lot of times these cohorts are kind of like these ad hoc training come together and then they just dissipate and people don't stay in touch. But we've stayed in touch since then, like for almost 4 years now, which is really, I think, really, really powerful. Just a testament to the relationships that were made.
Oh, I would say that that's huge. And the mentoring that you got, and I would assume now you are mentoring as well, just because that's kind of what happens, as you move forward
Right.
in your career. But tell us about your background. You said you were in
Yeah.
a corporate career and then you moved on to do your own thing here.
Yeah. So I'm going to start, I'll kind of start way back because I just think it's more interesting that way.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I always wanted to be from the earliest that I can remember. When somebody asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? My first answer was I wanted to be a writer. And at the time I was really, and this is like fourth grade, I was really interested in Sherlock Holmes and mystery novels. And I didn't really know much about, like, I had no concept of what a genre was. I just knew that I loved these mystery novels. So I would read all of them and I love them. And I love to write. And you know, when you're in fourth grade, you get kind of like your first writing assignments. And I just remember Mrs. Baldwin was my fourth grade teacher. And she told me that when I wrote my first book that I needed to dedicate it to her. And I will never forget that moment. It was so encouraging. It was just like the first time I can really remember somebody believing in a very specific like talent or skill that I had, that, and then it allowed me to like just have the confidence to think that I could do something or that I was good at something, which was so important. So just as I kind of developed through, you know, high school, moving forward from there, I kept up my interest in writing, but it kind of shifted to journalism. So I started, you know, I was the editor-in-chief of the newspaper in my high school. And then I started thinking about, okay, now I got to think about where I want to go to college and what do I want to do. So my shift focused to broadcast journalism. I really wanted to be like the next Barbara Wawa. And I love 2020. I mean, the heyday of 2020 when she was just like killing it. And I love news magazine shows like Dateline with Jane Pauley and Stone Phillips. Like I'll never forget watching them. And I wanted to do that. So I ended up graduating high school and went to Northwestern University in the Chicago area to study broadcast journalism. And then I wanted to be a reporter. I was so gung-ho about being a reporter, working my way up. And I had this whole market strategy. I was going to start in this market and I was going to move up in a few years. And I was like so passionate about it. And then it's just weird how things shift when we're not expecting it. So the first time, like my idea of what I wanted to do shifted was when I went abroad. I studied abroad in Spain. And I took a documentary class kind of in the same around the same time period. So I think just my idea of the world shifted. Like when you travel, I think that you get a different understanding of, I think your values just internally shift a little bit when you get a different understanding of the world and how it works. Yeah, you see how other people live. And then I took this documentary class and I realized maybe I don't want to be a reporter. Maybe I don't want to, you know, focus on these, you know, spot news is not always like a friendly place. It's a lot of murder and fires and bad things that happen. And I want more screen time. I want to be able to tell longer format stories. So then graduating from college, I first worked in a news station for a little bit, but soon after that, I was working for a documentary house and we were doing television documentary. And this is still in Chicago. So I was working for networks like the History Channel, the Weather Channel, and National Geographic, and others. But essentially the doc house would sell a series to the network and the network would hire us to make the series. And I started as an associate producer. So that's how I got started in kind of film and television.
Right.
And then, you know, life happens again. And when Barack Obama was elected, which was so exciting, especially coming from Chicago, the economy had a collapse soon after he was elected as a result of things that happened prior to his, his term. And the bottom dropped out of the documentary television industry for sure. There was no work. I was freelancing. I didn't have a staff position. A lot of the labor for that kind of stuff is freelance. So I was kind of like, what the heck do I do now? And after a little while of just kind of, you know, trying to work the gig economy, and this was back in like, 2008. It's not the same that it is now in terms of just like the social aspect of social media, and LinkedIn didn't exist. And it was a different world on how to exist as a freelancer, especially somebody who doesn't have a ton of experience yet. So anyway, an opportunity came up for me to work in the suburbs of Chicago in a staff position. I was going to get benefits. I was going to have paid time off, and I was going to develop a new skill set. I was going to be a producer working with kind of like a small agency team for these really big multinational corporations and doing event production, video production. and sounded great. So we moved to the suburbs, my partner Eric and I, and he was already working out there, so it just like made sense. And so for 10 years I worked in that field. It was awesome. I loved the team that I worked with. I learned a lot. I got to travel a lot, which was great. But eventually I got to the point where I was just feeling like I was creatively just maxed out on just, well, I felt like creatively kind of just broken. Like, I don't know, I wasn't doing anything that was fulfilling me creatively anymore. And there were just, I felt called to do other things. And that's all, like, I don't even know how to explain it. And you're probably hearing this little buzz because my dryer is going off trying to tell me to dry clothes. That might happen a few times. In any event, I just knew something had to change. Like I was like down in the depths of like despair kind of. And I don't want to say that as a reflection of my job, because I still love my job, but it was creatively so unfulfilling. I just had this, what am I doing with my life moment? Like, really, what am I doing with my life? Is this what I want to be doing with my life? This is my trajectory. I can see it clearly doing what I'm doing. And is that what I want it to be? And so I had to make a shift, and it has taken a long time. I'm still like, that was really like 2015 when I started realizing that. And I'm still doing it. I mean, it just
Sometimes
takes a long time and a lot
like
of
that, you know, you need like something
yeah.
just, yeah, where you're like, why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my
all of that. Yeah. So the seeds of that started happening in 2015. It took me a long time to really, before I was like ready to make a move. So that was about the time 2018 came along, and then Gloria's program, and just things shifted after that. But then the pandemic's kind of really slowed things down for me. So that, you know, there's that. But as a result of that kind of like quarter life crisis, or whatever you want to call it, I decided to shift my career back into film and television. And so I've been pursuing a few projects since then, and just trying to stay flexible and like go with the punches, and here we are.
Well, you've got several projects that you've done that I saw that are on your website. You've got Beyond the Horizon, and then what's the other one? In this
together. So that was a little short. It's like a 1-minute video. It's a really cute one. That one was great. That I actually conceived of that little short video in April of 2020. So it was like peak pandemic, when everybody was worried about if they were going to have enough toilet paper, if they'd have enough food, you know, in their cupboard. And when you're just waking up every morning and thinking, is this real life? Like, is this really happening? Or when are we going back to normal? And it was, I just had this idea for this short video, and I was so passionate about it. And I really learned to follow my instincts, because over the years, I've just learned that I have good instincts for things. And when I don't follow my instincts, I really freaking regret it. And so I knew it was a good idea. And I knew that we were in an emotionally fragile moment as a society, and that the resonance for the message that I had with the video was like, there was a little time frame for it, and I had to do it immediately. So my partner Eric is a creative director, and he works in the creative field as well. So we teamed up. I mean, we couldn't go anywhere. It was lockdown. No one was going anywhere. So how was I going to produce a little video to help encourage people through the pandemic when I couldn't, you know, like I can't really hire a crew. We use the equipment we have. And so I just came up with an idea, and that's what that little video is. But it had so much resonance. People loved it. And it's been a really powerful thing to share even now. But back then it was just so fulfilling to be able to be creative in a space where everybody was still inside. But also the message of the video is to encourage other people to also to be creative in their own ways, and how they connect, and to still keep like hope up. I mean, like hope is really I would say one of my core values, and like most treasured things that I think that we can hold on to. Like, if you don't have hope, like what do you have?
Yeah.
And in a situation like that, where everyone is, so there's so much uncertainty, like hope is sometimes is like scarce. So I wanted to do something that would really emphasize or try to like promote that.
Is that something that you would do for other people, or?
Yeah, a video like that. Yeah. So as a producer, you know, when I was on staff at an agency, we had a book of business. And so I just became kind of like a manager of a portion of that book of business. So I knew our clients would come to us. We didn't really have to go looking for clients. They always would come back. Now, as a freelancer, as somebody who, you know, as somebody who is not working under umbrella of a company that has established clients. I have to build my own clientele. So yes, so in essence, now I'm like a for hire producer, director, writer, depending on what the project is, building my own clientele. So yeah, a video like that is definitely something that I could do for a company. And actually, when we produced it and distributed it on social media, I put it on LinkedIn, and I had people coming to me. I had someone who was essentially like a headhunter who was saying, oh, we could sell this. We could sell this. Like, I need Crayola. Like, we could sell this to Crayola. We could sell this to Hobby Lobby. We could sell it. And if you watch the video, you'll understand why she's thought that, because it had commercial value. The production quality was really high. The message was really authentic. And it's the kind of thing that, of course, a company like that, would love to get behind. So yeah. In a word, yes, but
you never know. So many things, so many new ideas, new businesses and everything have been spurned from the pandemic, and people, doing something outside the box. Like, I never used to do interviews or podcasts or books or anything. So yeah, it's amazing what happens sometimes when you least expect it. Oh, that's interesting. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about, you've got 3 themes that kind of run through your work, and
yes.
Truth, heritage, and ritual. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Tell me about how
Sure.
those consistently run through.
Yeah. So truth really comes from my family surname. So my last name is Spanish. It's Ontiveros. And in this, it means stalk of truth. And if you think back to what I told you earlier, when I wanted to be a journalist and, being, or really loving detective novels, I mean, like, there's this strain of like truth running through kind of as a theme in my interests, which I realized later. As I was becoming more introspective about what I wanted to do with my life and what I, as my unique individual footprint in this world, what do I bring to the table? And anyway, that's where these 3 themes emerge, actually, from a lot of introspection and understanding of what I want to work on and why. So in any event, truth stems from my last name, the meaning of it, and my deep connection to truth through my interest in journalism and mysteries, and wanting to get to the bottom of the truth. But also, so now as I'm writing, for example, we'll talk later about a feature film that I just wrote, and I think of truth as a theme, and also in how, I'm building characters, how truthful are my characters? How do they sometimes obscure the truth? Why do they do that? And how can you play with truth? How do you eventually get to the truth? Do you need to get to the truth? And the same happens with heritage, which is another thing that's really important to me. And actually, as I was going through my internal journey, part of that was going back to New Mexico, where I was born and raised, and going back to my father's hometown and interviewing some of the matriarchs of our family who were getting really old, and nobody had talked to them about what it was like to grow up on the farmland in New Mexico. And I'm like, no, why does nobody care about this? How have I not cared about this until this moment? And I went back and tried to investigate my heritage, did audio recordings of them telling me about what it was like to grow up. But like in some ways, I just felt like it was coming at it at the last minute, because or maybe even too late, because some of these women were already kind of in the last stages of their life and showing signs of dementia, or just like couldn't really remember a lot. So I tried to get everything that I could. And since then, 2 of them passed away. And so I got to see them once, really. As an adult, I didn't remember them because I didn't spend a lot of time with that extended family growing up, ever. And so, like, it's kind of like it's not like I have a regret, because I didn't know what I didn't know, really. And nobody was going to show me the way or encourage me to do it. I kind of like just had a passion to do it, and went and tried to like dig up some truth in my family as our heritage, and so that I could share it with other people, and so that we could create this family legacy. And so it's not regret that I have, but it's a tender feeling of never having enough time. Like, there never would have been enough time for me to probably have excavated all I wanted to excavate, And so I have to take what I got and be thankful for that and see what I can do with what I have. But heritage, so that's kind of like my personal journey with heritage, and I'm still doing that. And I still want to go back to New Mexico and interview more people. Actually, I took a trip not too long ago, like within the past 6 months, to film my great uncle who owns land out there where they grow green chili. And so he hires, farm workers, and they were picking, and I was following them with the camera, and I was just trying to document this stuff because it's going away. We are in the last generation of people who want to do this work in the United States. That's it. And then this land is becoming more valuable. People from overseas are investing in it. They're going to do different things with it. It's not going to be what it has been. And, sometimes there's always this push and pull with progress. It's like, things aren't always going to be the way that they were, but it's also important to acknowledge where things came from. And, change is hard sometimes, especially when it affects your personal family. So,
and I think for a lot of us, I have so much family history that I wasn't even interested in till I was like in my 30s. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, but what about this? And what about this? And now a lot of you, older women in my family are.
Right. That was me too in my 30s. Yeah. I think it's kind of probably a special time in your 30s when you just start having a different perspective on what's important. Not
all about us, right? It's about, there's other things in life.
And also because I think a lot of women, I don't know, I don't have kids yet anyway. And a lot of women do become mothers especially now in their 30s or late 20s. And I just think that my sister started having children in her, mid 30s. There's a whole shift in perspective when you start thinking of motherhood when you become a mother. So that's probably also a big part of it for women, at least. I mean, for men too, but for women in a different way. But yeah, I think 30s is a huge turning point. I think 40s are too. I mean, each decade has its, kind of like its own vibe. And maybe like the 30s is kind of like going back to your heritage in your home, and kind of reassessing your connection to your family.
Yeah. It's interesting that it happened to both of us.
Yeah. And I think everyone, like anyone listening, should start hopefully thinking about if there are stories that they want to start asking about, because you got to ask, you have to be inquisitive and curious. That's something that I've always really felt is important, being curious.
Yes, absolutely.
Staying curious.
You said you're working on a new project, a new documentary right now, or?
Not a documentary. Well, the feature film that I wrote is a road trip comedy, the one that's inspired by my mom and my mother-in-law and their personalities, because they're really very interesting and very different. And so I came up with this concept of a road trip where they're both stuck together on a road trip and just, hijinks ensue. It's kind of like a Bridesmaids meets Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So I wrote that in 2020. And then last year I was also just doing rewrites and trying to, make it better and pick it apart and figure out how I can improve it. And then I've now more recently been working with a producer who works in Hollywood to further develop it. Not really develop it, but to do additional rewrites. And so he's giving me a great perspective on the material. And ultimately, the goal is to partner with some production partners and to direct it. And so I'm really looking forward to just continuing to move the ball forward on that one. But feature film takes, it takes a long time. I'm also still not in LA. Actually, we moved out of Chicago in 2021, in the beginning of 21. So still like in the middle of the pandemic. And then we moved to Phoenix. We were only going to stay here for a couple of months, but then my sister's here with her kids. My mom lives here now. So we just kind of decided to stay for a little while. We've been here for a year now. And so this is like the year that I'm like, okay, we're going to move to LA, but then, it just depends. The timing just needs to be right. Essentially, I'd love to be there, but I also really love spending time with my family, even if I know that I'm not going to be here permanently. I'm trying to, soak all of that up.
Sure. Well, and you can
Yeah.
really live anywhere now because there's so many ways to connect with people that we didn't used to have. So
Yeah. And in the industry and film and television too, like connecting through Zoom is more accepted than it was before. I mean,
yes,
Zoom's been around for a long time, but it's just so much easier for people, especially when you're in like a traffic heavy city like LA. So I've also been thinking like, do I really need to move to LA? And I still really think I do. So we'll get there, but I don't know how long we'll be there. We'll see. I'm excited. I'm
yeah,
excited about
yeah,
eventually being there. Yeah.
that's awesome. I wanted to touch base. I'm sure in your films and just in all your work, you incorporate a lot of symbolism, you know, that
Yeah.
there's just symbols all around us. And I always ask the people that I interview if there's a symbol that means something to you in your life. And you shared with me that it's the clematis flower.
Yeah. There's a clematis.
Clematis, I
Some,
mispronounced it.
no, it's okay. I'm probably mispronouncing it. I think it's clematis. So symbology in general is, I think, so important. To me, like, I just love, I love, not that I like to read into things more than what is there, but I feel like if you can attach, if you can find and kind of sit with the events of your life having meaning, then your life becomes more fulfilling. So, I think there are other people on their side of the spectrum. And I think like Eric, my partner, is one of them. He's just like, you're reading into things or like, oh yeah, does that really mean that? And that's totally fine. Like there are people who don't necessarily need to have that. I need to have that. Things I feel more fulfilled when I can identify meaning like in my life. So I'll just give you some examples. The clematis flower is one of them. And also this ties into ritual because that's the third theme of my work. So as a quick aside, like anybody listening to this and everybody should be looking for ways that they can bring meaning to their life through ritual. Creating creating a morning ritual, something small you do every morning, something small you do every night, or whatever, to help ground you, to help bring you back to center, to help, life is stressful, to help keep our stress in check. So ritual is important, and make sure, rituals aren't always positive. Sometimes we get in loops that are negative. That's also a ritual. For habitually doing something, it's a ritual. So we got to keep ourselves in check and to make sure that what we're doing on a repeated, our habits, our rituals are ones that we're choosing and are not like choosing us by default because we're being too reactive and not proactive enough. So okay, so the clematis flower, I'll do that one first because you mentioned it. So when I was deep into one of the projects that I started like during this transition was it was like an adaptation of a novel. Then it turned into me trying to based on a historical figure, and then I was going to, instead of adapting this book, write a different story about the historical figure. Anyway, I was going through like deep, I was doing meditation, I was doing actually personal counseling with somebody, like a lot of deep introspective work. And I started like, things were coming to me in my sleep. I dreamt a line of iambic pentameter that, no, like, I can't even believe this happened to me, but I'm not kidding. I was asleep and I had this line came to me in my dream. I just literally like sat up, said it, and then wrote it down. And then it was a perfect line of iambic. It was amazing.
Thank God you wrote it down.
I wrote it down. It's in, I have a first novel of a manuscript, our first draft of a manuscript, and it's in there. And it will be in the last draft because it was just like it was a symbol, it was like a sign. It was something that came to me. I could not believe it. And then another one of the things that happened in that period of time was I had this intense dream about this little girl on a beach who was being burned. Like the waves were coming, like waves of like lava were coming on the shore, and they were catching her and she was getting burned. And I had to go rescue her. So I went and I got her and pulled her away. And then I started bringing this flower to cover up the wound, and it was working. And so I went to go get more, and I kept on coming back and getting more. And then all of a sudden her mom was there, and she was healed, and she was like in this white linen dress or something. It was so weird. And at the time I was going through the personal counseling that I mentioned before. And so my life coach counselor asked me to look up the flower, and I did, and it was a clematis. And if you look up a clematis, and I didn't know what the flower was. I literally looked up purple flowers, and I had to go find, I had to find what flower it was. I did that, and then I looked it up. I finally found the flower, and it said that it can be used to treat burns and heal wounds from burns. And I could not believe that had come to me in a dream. Like, how would I know? I had no idea what a clematis was, that a flower could be used in that way, and that specific flower was used in that way, and that this girl was injured in that way in my dream. Like, what source of knowledge did that come from? Because I've never studied any of that. So it was really, really interesting. And another kind of like another symbol that I think is going to be revisited in my novel, maybe not in exactly the way it happened in my dream, but it was very interesting. And I see those things like as signs that I'm on the right path, that I'm, pursuing what I need to pursue, that I'm being, that I'm really fully connected with the material, that, that things are good. From an intuitive level,
Sure.
I'm on the right page.
Well, I mean, dreams, symbolism, all those things guide us in so many really intuitive and meaningful ways. So I thank you for sharing that. That was really, really interesting. My apologies, I was a little distracted there. I don't know if you ever have technology problems, but my computer freaking out. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. So Alicia, if people want to know more about you, I noticed your website is called Veros Productions, which I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's like Truth Productions, because it's part of your name, right? Too. Yes, so is that the best place for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. My website, Veros Productions. Yeah, there's a way to contact me through there. I also have a podcast, and I have an Instagram account that is a companion to my podcast. And that is called Unsolicited with Alicia Ontiveros. So on Instagram, it's Unsolicited, the podcast. And so I'm looking forward to contributing to that more soon. I talk about, right now I have just a few episodes up there, but I launched it last year, and I talk about the Lit Up competition Reese Witherspoon launched, and I participated in that. I basically wrote a book in 30 days, and it was really hard. So I go through that process and talk about the creative process. But the podcast, the original intent of the podcast was to take people through my journey of making this movie that was inspired by my mother and my mother-in-law, called Mother of the Ride. And so I'm going to get back to that and other things, but it's just kind of like a follow along with my career journey as I, try to keep it together.
Well, you have so much going on. I wish we had more time to spend, but hopefully this is just a teaser for people, because you're such an interesting person. You have lots of great projects, and
thank you.
I think there's lot to see and learn if you go to the website, listen to the podcast, and then we'll have to stay in touch, because I can tell there's going to be lots of developments in your life.
Thank you. Yeah, I love to. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to be a guest on your podcast.
Yes, thank you so much, Alicia, and keep making great and meaningful artistic productions. What you do is important.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So thanks for being our guest today. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.